What's up YouTube, welcome to the channel. So in this video we are very briefly going to discuss a tool that we use all the time when it comes to dry lining that makes our life so much easier. We have featured this on our channel before, but the tool that we will be looking at today is none other than the Hultafors Talmeter. Now this specifically is the 3-meter version, which happens to be the perfect size when it comes to doing plasterboarding. In the United Kingdom, the most standard size board that we use is 2.4 meters or 8 feet. So as a 3-meter tape measure, it is perfect for working at 2.4 meters and below. But what is it that makes this tape measure so impressive? Well, you'll see in the video here on the screen that there are some incredible features with the tape measure. Most specifically being that there's a very convenient tail on the back of the tape measure, which makes it an awful lot easier to measure when it comes to internal measurements. But also, and it's specifically what is so handy for dry lining, is that you'll see that there is a little blade on the tape measure which makes it really easy, very quick, very convenient for cutting board. What we're going to do is we're going to show you how we use it to cut boards accurately so that we can get perfect cuts every single time. Okay, so one of the features of the Hultafors tape measure, which makes it very convenient when it comes to boarding, is the use of this tail on the back of the tape measure, specifically when you are measuring internal joints. Now you can see on the shot above that we've just got this piece of board to fit, and it's not a particularly square cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Hultafors tape measure to get that measurement as accurate as we possibly can. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to use the tail of the tape measure and we're going to keep it open, and then we are just going to measure along to the wall and then just pull it off the wall just a fraction, and then we're going to leave it long like that, leave the tape measure open. Now what we've got here is we've got a scrap of plasterboard. In an ideal world it'd be nice if it had a factory edge on one side. It doesn't. I'm just trying to use up some of the board. But what we're going to do is we're just going to hook the tape measure on the edge like so, and there's a tiny little nick in the end of the tape, and we're just going to push that against the board like so. Now it probably doesn't show on the screen, but there's just a very small imprint there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly the same again. So you can see it's actually a good 10 mil out, and we're just going to increase the size of the tape like so, and we're going to transfer that mark onto the board at the bottom. So same again, just use that tail and just push that mark on like so. Now what I do have now is I've got a mark at the top and I've got a mark at the bottom, and I'm just going to run a knife across that and cut a straight line. So I'm just going to use my T-square as a straight line. Just put it on the first mark there, and then just pull it a fraction. Make that cut. So hopefully the tape measure is any good. Should just fit perfectly, which it does. So there we have it. That is one feature of the Talmeter, which makes it very convenient when it comes to boarding and ensures that you can get very accurate tapered cuts every single time. The reason being is because you're not using any measurements where you're transferring pencil marks. You're actually using the tail of the tape measure and then the actual blade itself almost as a bit of a story pole, so you can transfer that length onto the board without getting any measurements wrong, forgetting numbers or anything like that, or putting a smudgy pencil mark which isn't very accurate. So when it comes to smaller cuts like that, it is very, very convenient to use that tail to get very accurate measurements when cutting board. Now let's have a look at another feature of the Talmeter to actually cut the board itself without the use of a knife in any way. Let's look at that now. Okay, so when it comes to using your tape measure as not only a measuring device but also a cutting device, what you're going to want to do is obviously check your measurement, which in this case I need to cut this board down to 1,980 millimeters. So 1980, which is there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stop the tape dead on 1980 and just make a small mark. For the benefit of the video, that there is the cut. Okay, so we have our mark here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the blade, and then what we're going to do is we're going to hook the blade on the end of the board, and then where the mark is, we're going to put that tiny little metal tip against it. So we're going to hook the blade on the end of the board, and I've opened the tape measure up to the point where that mark is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the tape measure parallel to the board, and then I'm going to lightly just score the paper, pulling the tape measure down. Now obviously I'd go a bit faster if I wasn't being recorded, but just for the benefit of the video, I'm going a bit slower. Now you've got a score line there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the board out and snap it. So now this is our cut. Now what we're going to then do is we're going to close the tape up entirely, and then what I'm going to do, with the board slightly bent, I'm just going to run that tip along that line like so. So it's just going to scratch the back of the tape like so, and then job done. So just with a tape measure you can do not only all the measuring but also the cutting of the board as well, so which makes it very, very convenient. If you've got no extra blades or anything like that, you can do everything with these Talmeter tape measures. So there you have it, the Hultafors Talmeter. The 3-meter version really is something excellent when it comes to dry lining. It makes you more accurate. In some cases, it is an awful lot faster. So it's certainly a tool that we thoroughly recommend. We've been using for quite a long time. We generally just exclusively use them for dry lining, so they do tend to last quite a while. I think on average ours probably last for about 3 years or so if you look after them. Certainly they don't get wet or anything like that, which typically is what tends to kill a tape measure. So what we'll do is we'll include in the link below just where you can buy them on Amazon. I'm not entirely sure how much they are now, maybe about £17 in the United Kingdom. Obviously it's quite a lot of money, especially for a 3-meter tape measure, but £17 for a good 3 years worth of use, it definitely makes life an awful lot easier. Certainly when it comes to things like measuring out for sockets, as we mentioned, using that tail feature, it makes it so much more accurate, so much easier to measure out where those socket cutouts need to be. So it's definitely a tool that we thoroughly recommend. We've been using for years, and we hope that it helps you improve your plastering and dry lining. Thanks so much for watching the video. Consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks again.